Christ is king, it's where we belong. Stay with the dream, don't lose your way. Right way's the fire that'll light the day. Keep it simple, let the moment arrive. 3-8 trap keeps the hope alive. Hold on tight till the signal's near. Right way's the trail, we're breaking through fear.
Good morning, fellow traders. This is Doug Campbell with Right Way Options, and this is the morning market prep video for November 19th, 2025. Well, a little bit of rough market yesterday, lots of volatility, lots of whipsaws. What will today bring? Let's take a look at what happened overnight. First off, we had Asian markets kind of mixed last night, a little bit of volatility in them as well. We saw Australian markets down 21.20 or 0.25% lower. Hong Kong continued to decline, down 99.38 or 0.38%. South Korea was lower by 24.11 or 0.16%. The Nikkei fell 165.28 or 0.34% lower. And then we saw India moving up 142.60 or 0.55%. And Shanghai made a push to the upside of $6.93 or 0.18% here overnight. Let's take a look at what we've got going on in Europe this morning. Europe is green across the board this morning after a couple of really rough days to the downside, catching a little bit of a relief rally. The DAX at the moment is up 58.40 or 0.25% higher. FTSE is up $9.81, 0.10% higher, and CAC is higher by $7.44 or 0.09% to the upside here this morning. If we take a look at U.S. futures this morning, pre-market futures has the Dow pushing up 65 points here at the moment. S&P 500 futures are higher by 23 points. And NASDAQ futures are looking to gap higher by 108 here at the moment. So let's take a peek at our bonds. Our bonds showing just a little bit of a mix in here, with the 2-year bond still holding lower at 3.57%, but the 30-year bond is going higher, up 4.75%, and the 10-year bond coming in at 4.12% here this morning. So a little bit of mix in those bonds this morning. We'll want to be keeping an eye on those. If we take a look at what's happening as a result in the U.S. dollar, U.S. dollar is going up. We reversed yesterday, started pushing back up here in the dollar. Give me a tool here so I can draw with it. Pushing back up here and pushing back through that resistance. So a little bit of strengthening in the dollar here today. Right now, dollar futures up 15 cents, so we'll want to watch that. If we take a look at what that is doing here to precious metals, well, we have gold moving higher here this morning. Right now, gold is up 47.50 an ounce, 4,113.80 an ounce here at the moment. Silver, is, let me get rid of that. Silver is also up $1.46 an ounce, or 51.98 an ounce. Zooming there in silver this morning, a little higher low coming in on that. Copper, not showing much of anything here in the copper miners, but copper itself is actually up almost 6 cents here this morning. Platinum is up $1.83, or 28.40 an ounce here this morning, gapping up on platinum and palladium, higher by 26.30 or 1.78% here this morning. Let's take a look at cryptos. Cryptos, unfortunately, after trying to get something going yesterday, they're all in the red this morning. Bitcoin right now is down $1,409 a coin, 1.52% lower. Ether is lower by 45.09, 1.44% lower. And Solana is down $2.84. That's 2.01% lower here this morning. So red across the board in those cryptos. If we take a look at oil here this morning, oil had a really good bounce back up yesterday, but we're seeing some selling here this morning. Maybe some oversupply concerns, apparently. We've got oil futures at the moment down 82 cents a barrel at 59.82 a barrel here this morning. Brent crude is lower by about 70 cents as well at 64.13 a barrel. And natural gas right now is up 4.5 cents here this morning, natural gas futures. So a little bit of hold in there, support. Might want to keep an eye on that. That's a very bullish pattern in natural gas. So what does all that mean for the day? Well, how about we settle in? Let's buckle up. Let's get ready for the Wednesday edition of the Morning Market Prep video. Good morning once again, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. I do truly appreciate it. Let's take a look at our index chart, see if we can figure out how we might want to approach the market for today. Remember, we want to look at this market for what it is, not for what we want it to be, and really take a look at those details so we can avoid getting caught in these traps that are being set here lately. So yesterday I mentioned the possibility of a little bit of relief rally. And it really didn't, I mean, we had a lot of whipsaws, but it really didn't pick up any steam yesterday on that bullish side. Just too much uncertainty coming into today as we wait on an FOMC minutes coming out. And then, of course, the big thing of the day is NVIDIA, which will likely decide whether we're going to start pushing to the upside or if we move lower here in the markets. Let's take a look at the Dow. As you can see this morning, trying to catch a little bit of bid here, trying to show that little bit of bullishness. If the bulls can continue to push here this morning, we could stretch right back up here into this resistance here in the chart. And just keeping in mind, it is a fairly substantial resistance. If we can plow through that and stretch right on through, then I would start looking up here to this next area of resistance. And of course, we're going to run into a situation here where we could slam into that downtrend and continue to sell off. One other area of resistance that we're going to have to deal with here is that 50-day moving average. So as we push back up into this area of resistance right up in here, we're going to have to deal, right up in here, we're going to have to deal with that 50-day moving average as resistance, and noticing in here that those shorter term moving averages are coming down. We're going to have a little bit of a cap put right on that to see whether or not we'll have the energy to push right on through. And that's one thing we have been lacking, is a lot of participation or breadth to show us that energy. So we'll want to keep a close eye on that as we push back to those areas of resistance. Now, if something were to happen today and those bears were to come back, critical point is going to be, of course, right here. If we were to fail through here, and I mentioned this yesterday, if we were to drop through this area here, I think the next area that we would likely test, and we could do it pretty quickly, I think, is that big black candle right here to see whether or not that holds a support. If we drop through there, oof, we've got some explaining to do here if we fall through that level. So watch that carefully. And you know, the thing about the diamonds is this was one really mean, nasty whipsaw, because we rallied up to a new high and then completely whipsawed this back down to a new low in the chart. So be really careful here. The rally back is going to be critical on the diamonds. If we take a look at the SPY, well, not quite as vicious here in the sense that we did give a hint of a lower high at price resistance here in the SPY before we pulled back to make a new low. Now, if the bulls from here can continue this push that we've got going this morning, trying to reclaim this area of price support, then I would be looking up into this next area of resistance. First off, that resistance is likely going to be around that 50-day moving average. So keep an eye on that as we push back up through these levels and back up here toward that 50-day moving average, which is right about in there. We're going to want to watch that area pretty closely. We may be able, with a good strong push here, get back up into this area of price resistance as well, and then kind of deal with that overabundance of resistance up here, and we'll be watching this downtrend as well for that potential signal that something is going wrong here again for a lower high. If the bears were to have anything to say here today, if we were to push back on this, first we're going to test the low here yesterday, and then I think that big black candle over here will be the defining line. If we hold that and bounce, we're probably okay. If we sink below there, yeah, look out below. It could get a little bit ugly here for a while. So watch that carefully. Remember, it's the rally back that we really need to be watching here. Any rally back that runs into trouble could set up that next lower high in the SPY. Taking a look at the QQQ, the very same situation here. We made that lower high here in the chart and now trying to rally back up. Let's keep an eye on these price resistance levels as we start pushing, and they're fairly significant levels in here of price action as we start pushing back up. If we look at the technicals in here, of course, we've got to get back through this area here to break back through that 50-day. Notice those short-term moving averages really collapsing down to provide a zone of resistance up there. So as we push back through this area up here, keep watching all these multi-levels of resistance as we push back up for those hints of a potential failure. Can NVIDIA all on its own get the market convinced to shake off these valuation worries in the market and all on its own lift this market back up? I don't know, but there are analysts out there saying this will be the most consequential, most important earnings report of the year. So we'll see. Watch that carefully. Now, if the bears were to push back on this today, well, first off, I would be watching down here, test of yesterday's low, and then the same thing. There's that nasty black candle again. If we hold there, we're probably okay. If we fail through there, yeah, that's where some real worry and concern could be created in the market. So watch that carefully. Let's take a look at what we have going on here in the Russell. And IWM was the only index to push on up yesterday and close in the green. Found that support down here. Now, this was, as I mentioned yesterday, the most oversold stock or index in the market, and got a nice little relief in there, and they're trying to follow that through this morning. So if those bulls can continue to keep pushing here today, I would look for that stretch up here into resistance in the chart, and if we can pop through there, well, then we'll look and see if we can attack this area up here. Please keeping in mind that we failed our 50-day moving average way up here. So as we push back up here in the chart, we're going to be watching these areas of price resistance in here pretty carefully, because this downtrend, certainly confirmed with a lower high, lower low, as we rally back, could easily find resistance in here somewhere, and then we continue that move on lower. So watch that carefully in the Russell. Let's take a look at our VIX. Our VIX rallied pretty strongly yesterday, but by the close we were easing it back, closing up here at just 24 and a half handles in the VIX. But you guys remember, and this is something to always remember when you look at the VIX, the higher low. I mentioned that over and over and over. When we hold a higher low, that's where the real selling can begin. So watch that carefully here. Certainly played out again here in the chart. And if those bulls can continue to find inspiration today, we need to see this start easing back here, maybe even coming back in here to this area of price support in the chart. By the way, that runs back here a long ways. A little bit of price support back in here, but we'll want to be watching that closely, because as we rest or pull back, if those bears were to find any other inspiration in here and stretch us on higher, well, as you can see, we still can push the VIX a lot higher here. As a matter of fact, if I go back to a weekly, we can go a lot higher in the VIX if panic really starts to ensue. And that would only, I think, be triggered today if we happen to get a disappointment from NVIDIA. Now, I assume NVIDIA is going to report really strong. The question is not going to be, will they beat earnings? I don't think. The question is going to be, will it be enough of a blowout earnings report that it can continue to support the high valuations here that we're seeing in NVIDIA and the rest of the market? So that's the big question here for today. So watch that carefully here. VIX could be very telling on that. Let's take a look at our T20s. Our T21-22 indicator, as I mentioned yesterday, was probably our best hope of a little bit of a relief rally. We ended up getting that in here with that nice little bounce here of that relief, but it just didn't play through to be very productive on that bounce. The follow through here today may have more energy in it. We'll see. And as we push back up here in the chart, we've certainly got plenty of room for the bulls to work. They've got tons of room to work. One of the things we want to remember, though, is any relief rally back up, if that's all it is a relief rally, opens the door for more pushback if those bears were to be emboldened to push us back down. So watch that carefully here in T21-22. Our T2108 also caught that little bit of relief. And the good news here on T2108, we did fall below 30%, close below 30%, but just barely. And if you'll notice in here, we still held these recent pullback lows. So if the bulls can find some good inspiration here, it's kind of a flat upside trend, but perhaps we can start recovering T2108 here just a little bit, pushing us back up here toward 35 and then up toward 40%. Here would be a nice little relief rally in the chart. But keeping in mind, we have this downtrend in here as well that we'll want to be watching pretty closely if that relief rally doesn't give us enough energy to the upside. T2107, pretty much the same thing, except we did take out these recent lows here in T2107. 42% of the stocks holding above their 200-day moving average. The bullishness today, let's hope we can push that right back through here, start progressing back up here toward 45, and then maybe even progressing on higher here into that downtrend resistance on T2107 up toward that 50%. If at that point we start to see failure, well, buckle up. It could be a rough remainder of November. Let's take a look at T2101. Now, this is the breadth of the market, and this has been the major concern in here. The breadth of the market gapped up yesterday on that bearishness in the market. So we had a good, strong gap up. As the rally started to occur in the market, the breadth began to fade here. And that's one of the situations that we're going to have to deal with. We haven't seen the breadth to really sustain an upside move. So today's gap up here in the market, we need to see some breadth coming in. We need to see some tenaciousness in those bulls, and not just 7 stocks. We need to see more stocks in there pushing to the upside to provide us that breadth and that idea that the bulls are taking back over and they're taking command. Otherwise, I think the bears will be emboldened to push harder. So watch that carefully here on the day. Let's take a look at our economic calendar here. In our economic calendar, we've got a few things on the calendar that we'll get those numbers, but a lot of things we probably won't. We're going to get those mortgage applications here this morning. Keep an eye on that. They had been improving with bonds rates going back up. Watch for these to be a little bit disappointing maybe today. Housing starts and permits consensus is looking for 1.3 and 1.34 here on starts and permits. But remember, we didn't get this last time, and I think there's a high probability we don't get this today either. International trading goods are already saying we're not going to get. We've got Mirren speaking here today. We've got Atlanta Business Fed inflation expectation. Last time that was 2.3. I'm sure we'll get that, but it's not really market moving. We've got a petroleum status report, a 4-month and a 20-year bond auction, 20-year being most notable. And then, of course, we're going to get that FOMC minutes. Now, whether or not we learn anything new from the FOMC, we're still heavily focused on this right now because there's this palpable uncertainty about whether or not we're going to get a rate cut in December. Right now, Fed funds futures are kind of saying 50-50 chance on that. That's one of the reasons we've been seeing rates going, bond rates going back higher. So watch that carefully here. If we can get some more data out of what those Fed members were thinking, perhaps we can get some movement going here, either to upside or downside. But watch that carefully today. Likely create some volatility in there. And then we have William speaking as well at 2 p.m. Eastern. Now, after the bell is where the real activity is going to be today when we get that NVIDIA report. So keep an eye on that. This morning, you guys can take a screenshot of this. We've got Lowe's, TJ Maxx. We got a little bit of a retail theme going on right now. In our earnings reports, we'll look at a couple of those here this morning. But then NVIDIA, after the bell, is going to probably set the tone for the market in the day, at least for the days ahead, whether we're going to shake off this concern about valuations or and move back up, or if that valuation concern only grows. So watch that carefully here this afternoon, and be careful how you plan your day, because what this probably is going to set us up for is a substantial gap up. By the way, NVIDIA doesn't report until after the futures market closes, which puts us in a situation where we're either going to get a substantial gap up or a substantial gap down tomorrow. There won't be anything we can do about it. So, and I think it will have an impact on the entire market. So watch that carefully here. Plan your trading carefully. Don't get caught in over assuming anything here. We could whipsaw, we could do all kinds of things as a result. So be careful here today. I would expect a choppy session as we wait for this. We could see lots of whipsaws, lots of volatility, and then we'll deal with the ramifications on Thursday morning. First, let's take a look. Some of the reports this morning. We've got Lowe's moving higher here this morning. Nice little pop back up here in Lowe's. Keep an eye on that. We have TJ Maxx reporting here today. That's continuing on a higher, nice bullish pattern in here. Been mentioning that one here for a while, setting up, and it's looking very, very good. And if we take a look at Target, well, not so much. Guiding lower here on Target, so moving to the downside here on that one. So watch that carefully here today. Let's take a look at a few stocks that could be setting up for today. But before we do that, everyone, if you could do me that quick favor, if this is the first time you've seen these videos, if you could please click that subscribe button, and then click that bell icon when it pops up so you'll be notified every time I post a video. And if you find these videos to be useful, helpful to your day, if you could do me that favor, just click that thumbs up button, leave a brief comment. Remember, even an emoji counts. I understand, believe me, I understand that it gets monotonous leaving a comment on a daily video like this. I understand it, but please understand it does help support the effort that it takes to put these videos out. So thank you so much for everyone who does do that. I truly, truly appreciate it. And for those of you who share these videos out on your social media feed, that also means a lot to me as well. And then, of course, even those that support the channel with the Buy Me a Coffee link just below the title of the video. You guys are truly awesome. I really, really appreciate it. Let's take a look at some of these stocks that could be setting up. Remember, everyone, they're not recommendations to buy or sell any security. You need to do your own due diligence. Be very careful in this market, realizing that anything is possible here after we get that NVIDIA report. So plan carefully, trade wisely as we move into monumentally an anticipated report this afternoon. Let's take a look. Las Vegas Sands. How about Las Vegas Sands? That is a very good looking chart. Popping up in here yesterday, holding on to support and trend. Any kind of bullishness here today may push that right on through to the upside. I'd keep an eye on LVS. That's looking pretty good. We already took a look at UNG in here, but there's that pattern again, that nice little rally through some resistance. We rested back into support. I would be watching this pretty carefully here, everyone. There may be some more upside potential coming here in UNG after breaking through this base. If we can continue to see the bulls push on through, this would be exactly what I want to be looking for. We're in what we call a round and bottom breakout. Target on the round and bottom breakout would be up here toward the 200-day. And I think UNG is setting up for that potential move. Now, if you don't like UNG, you might want to take a look at Boyle. Boyle also showing that bullish pattern here where we've rested back to support. Trend is a little bit flat in here, but if we can get those buyers stepping up in here, maybe it will steepen that trend a little bit and start moving Boyle to the upside, breaking through this base in here. Also in the rounded bottom breakout pattern, and it actually has more upside potential percentage-wise than UNG because we didn't get quite as much stretch here in Boyle. So keep an eye on that one. Other places that we could look, boy, I think we really need to be taking a peek at some of our utilities out there. Utilities holding up pretty nicely here. Take a look at NEE. That's setting up here for that nice opportunity. I think that's worth paying attention to. Take a look at things in some of the oil sector, holding up nicely here in ExxonMobil. Nice little resting consolidation, resting against a very substantial resistance. But if we can hold in here along that upside trend, then I would be watching for that opportunity that could push on through to the upside. There are others in here in that sector looking very good as well. Take a look at CVE. Nice little pop yesterday to the upside. That might find enough energy here today to pop through that resistance and continue to stretch on up. So keep an eye on some of that oil sector. It is coming around and looking pretty good in places. CNQ is an oil and gas play in here, pushing nicely. Now we are dealing with some price resistance right there in the chart. Any kind of little rest or pullback would set up that next opportunity, or if it pops straight on through, then I would look for that rest to come in up here and then look for that next opportunity in that chart. So quite a few of those looking pretty good. Take a look at this EXE. Now, EXE is more of a natural gas play than anything else, but nice little resting pullback after this stretch. Now, we're a long ways away from our trend, and that's the only problem with this, is that we've stretched so far so quickly that this might have to rest a little bit more. But as you can see, trying to hold in here, I would watch EXE carefully. I think there's some opportunities that may be coming along in that. And honestly, I'm thinking about watching this for a long-term hold in EXE because of their great positioning for the ramp up of all of the new liquefied natural gas infrastructure on the southern border of the country. So watch that carefully in here, worth taking a look at. Take a look at Sting. Sting is also setting up in here. Nice little resting consolidation in here. It did slip past its trend a little bit and had that volatility drop it out and then push right back up. So I would watch that carefully. If we get something going in oil, that might push right on through here to the upside. So keep an eye on those. By the way, you could just take a look at XLE and then just drop right into this list, run through this list, and you're going to find lots of bullish stocks in that sector here, trying to set higher lows, trying to come up out of bottoms, worth paying attention to in many of those stocks in energy. Let's take a look at healthcare. Now, healthcare has been doing extremely well here in the market. Take a look at Pfizer. Now, I've mentioned Pfizer a couple of times. Pfizer trying to break through this basing pattern in here. We've rallied through this downtrend. We're holding in here at support. Watch that carefully. If we can get a little bit more bullishness in that healthcare drug maker sector, might push right on through here on Pfizer. J&J has been nice and strong. You guys remember me mentioning this earlier this week, and that's continuing to stretch to the upside. Little rest, little pullback in here might set up that opportunity there for J&J. Wouldn't want to chase it, but it is worth paying attention to. And then there's quite a few others out there that might be coming around or turning around. Take a look at like Abbott Labs coming up out of that bottom. We just need a little resting consolidation in here out of that stretch, and that may start coming around to the upside. Take a look at things in the healthcare sector. Cardinal Health, my goodness, what a move there. Big stretch, resting up here now. Look for that next opportunity to the upside. We saw Medtronic shoot up yesterday after its earnings report. Remember, they are involved in robotics and things like that, into surgeries, and I think that's probably going to be a trend here soon, that more and more automation in surgeries. So watch that carefully. Any rest or pullback in here, I think, would set up an opportunity for Medtronic. You might also, in the same line, take a look at ISRG. Now, ISRG surged through some resistance, pretty strong pullback there, but watch that carefully. If we can hold in here around support, that might come back around as well. Take a look at Merck. My goodness, what a stretch here in Merck. Really took off to the upside. Little rest or pullback. If you remember, I was mentioning this as a weekly setup, and holy moly, that thing went strong here. So any rest or pullback in here, I would look for that opportunity in Merck to find those next buy points in here, worth paying attention to, I think, overall. And I'm going to have to mention here, and I know I'm running the video a little bit long, keep an eye on silver. This nice little higher low and stretching up here today. Keep an eye on silver, keep an eye on gold, and keep an eye on the miners. Ran across GDXJ yesterday and mentioned that. And if gold and silver start moving back up, there's every reason to believe we might see these miners moving on through to the upside as well. So keep an eye on those. So there's quite a few stocks for you for the day. I want to wish you all a fantastic day. Hopefully that relief rally holds here this morning. We don't whipsaw too much, but be prepared for about anything throughout the day. We could see lots of choppiness, lots of whipsaws, lots of head fakes. The anticipation on NVIDIA is unbelievable, and we'll have to wait and see Thursday morning what the ramifications of that report are going to be for the market. So make sure you're planning your trading very carefully. I wish you all the best, and I will see you right back here bright and early Thursday morning. And as always, wish you the best with your trading and good results in your trading today. Take care, everybody.
Black and white candles, my stars in the dark. Price is my king, got that fire and spark. Right ways my ranch on the trader's trail. Trading with heart, where the price